In this video, we will show you how to replace your rear shock upper mount on this Ford Ranger. This will be mounted to your frame and to the upper portion of your rear shock. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we need to mention is you're going to have to safely make your way under the vehicle. If you are raising and supporting, you want to be careful not to let the rear suspension hang because it will put pressure on your mounting hardware. We'll just put a jack underneath this area. At this point, we'll use a 15mm for the bolt head and an 18mm for the nut. Go ahead and remove the mounting hardware and give it a close inspection. Slide that out of there. Now that we have movement here, let's follow that rear shock all the way up to the upper mounting point. As we follow that shock up, you'll find that you have another 18mm headed mounting nut holding this in place. Remove the nut and remove the rear shock from the area. Let's take hold of that rear shock. We'll give it a little wiggle, separating it from the rear differential and then sliding it off of the upper stud there. It's possible the bushing's stuck on there. Just use a pry bar if needed. With that out of the way, we have a clear view of the upper shock mount. You'll find that it's riveted to the frame itself. You could try cutting those rivets from the inside here, but it's a little bit difficult. Let's make our way on the outside of the frame. Now to gain access to that outer portion of the frame, to cut off those rivets, it's easiest if you safely raise and support the vehicle and remove the wheel. If you have a center cover, go ahead and remove that first. We'll use a pry bar for this. A quick inspection of that and we'll set it aside. Once you've done that, continue on with all 5 of your 19mm lug nuts and then remove that wheel. With the wheel out of the way, you can tell that I've marked the 3 areas that you will have to cut off. Now, when you're cutting this, you want to be extremely careful not to cause damage to the frame. A couple different ways you can cut this. One would be with a cutting wheel. Otherwise, if you happen to have some torches, you could also use that. Just be extremely careful not to melt anything that you shouldn't. Got our little cutting wheel here. Give this a try. Now we'll just knock off whatever's left on here. There's one. Do the same to all others. At this point, I've removed all of the heads from each one of my 3 rivets. We'll continue on with a hammer and punch and drive this out of place. Keep in mind, there's nothing else holding this bracket in place on the inside of the frame. At this point, I've removed all of the heads from each one of our rivets. We want to be careful removing this because there's nothing else holding the bracket on the inside of the frame here. You can use a hammer and chisel. If you happen to have an air chisel, go ahead and use that. Just have to twist this a little bit. And there it is, friend. Let's get ready to install our brand new shock mount. When you put this in position, we want to have it in the correct orientation, so it's facing just like this. We'll have that stud facing inboard. Bring this right up against the frame, and after that, we'll continue on with each of our 3 mounting bolts. Slide them straight through the frame, through the unit, and we'll put the mounting nuts on the inboard side there. When it comes time to tighten these, we'll make sure we hold the heads here while we tighten those nuts on the inboard side. Let's get this in place here. Now we can put on each of our mounting nuts. You will find that these are locking nuts. Let's go ahead and start them on there. them up. We'll torque these to 50 foot-pounds. Okay, let's get ready to install our rear shock assembly on this. We'll take this and put it in position up on that stud there. Slide it right on. If you need to use a little bit of lubricant, you can do so. Continue on with your washer and your brand new locking nut. Before you tighten this mounting point, you want to make your way down to the bottom of the shock. Swing this over to the proper position. At this point, you may either have to raise or lower the rear differential to align this. Take that mounting bolt and slide it straight on through there. Before we can tighten either one of our pieces of mounting hardware, we need to have the vehicle in the normal ride height position. You can either lower everything back down to the ground, or if you have a jack under here, just continue on safely raising the differential just enough that it's in that ride height position. Continue tightening. Now we'll snug this up and then torque it to 49 foot-pounds. Let's snug this mounting nut and then we'll torque it to 46 foot-pounds. Remove the support from under your differential. Let's get the wheel on here. We'll start each of our 5 lug nuts on, bottom them out, get the wheel safely back down on the ground, and we'll torque these to 100 foot-pounds. With the wheel safely back down on the ground, let's torque these in a crisscross manner. If you have a center cover, go ahead and install that now. Align the center cover ports with the lug nuts and drive it into place. Okay friends, we've got the vehicle back together. At this point, you want to make sure you take it for a road test. Listen for funny noises, and it's a good idea to get yourself a 4-wheel alignment. Aside from that, thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.